Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Southeast Governors Forum denies taking a position on the ongoing military operation in the region to discuss the issue at a group meeting on Friday. Governors of Nigeria's northern states to hold public hearing on the call for the restructuring of the country, reaffirm faith in a united Nigeria. The federal government insists Nigeria's economy is on the right track as it applauds recent NBS GDP report, raises concerns over possible flooding in more parts of Nigeria. And U.S. airstrikes kill 6 Al-Shabaab fighters in Somalia. Top stories and others, please visit our websites channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. Log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You'll also have access to the Eyewitness feature with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. Now that the federal government is paying keen attention to the flood alert from the Niger Republic, there are concerns about how to handle the situation before the unwanted guest comes knocking. Here's a background report on the flood situation in Nigeria and the imminent danger ahead.
Flood. An unwanted guest threatening many homes across Nigeria. When it rains, fear grips many residents of flood-prone areas. Recently, residents of some communities in Makurdi, the Benue state capital, felt the harrowing experience of nature's wrath to man. More than 100,000 of them displaced. In July, torrential rains rolled back the layer of wealth and civilization in Nigeria's economic capital, Lagos. Lagos Island and Lekki were flooded as residents lost their valuables and incurred unprecedented expenses and their safety compromised. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, in its 2017 forecast, had predicted that floods are likely to occur in Sokoto, Zamfara, Niger, Kwara, Oyo, Ogun, and Adamawa states. A similar forecast was made in 2012, with little or no attention paid to it. The end result was massive flooding in 30 out of the 36 states of the Federation. Now there are concerns about the opening of dams within and outside the country, especially the Niamey Dam in Niger. What this means is that Nigeria, and indeed Nigerians, may have to start preparing again for another unwanted guest, especially now that government is even more concerned about it than ever.
Let's talk about the imminent danger ahead. Joining us now, the News at 10, is a professor of climatology from the University of Lagos, Professor Emmanuel Oladipo. Professor, thank you for joining us on the News at 10. Are we in denial about climate change? I mean, we've been given the warnings about what's going to happen, and yet it appears we are just studying it like a textbook.
Thank you very much. It is not that we're in denial of climate change, and I think the government take cognizance of that and participating actively in a lot of initiatives aimed at reducing the impact of climate change. But what is happening is that maybe we are lagging behind in terms of taking proactive measures rather than reactive measures to the possible impacts of climate change. And I think that's what is very important for us now to realize, that we do not have to wait until these disasters happen before we take actions on them.
And this disaster, that's the warning from Niger, is as a result of climate change.
We're very lucky that things have improved. Nigeria is a member of the Niger Basin Authority, and that's where the warning came from. We are part of the whole system. So we are lucky that at least we are able to have that warning. And luckily, again, there's always a time lag between the time it reaches its peak in the Army and the time it will enter Nigeria, usually about 2 weeks to a month, maybe. So we have enough time to try to follow the peaks of the river that it will be coming in this area as soon as more water is released from this area. So I'll be able to determine which areas are likely to be badly affected, right from Kebbi, through Niger, through Kwara, through Kogi, part of all the way to Anambra, and even all the way to Bayelsa State. So that gives us an opportunity. What we do not have now is that the means to contain them, to reduce the impact in totality, may not be there apart from just waiting and see what will happen when the water comes.
And we have a peculiar problem in this part of the world because, of course, you can forecast, but you can't really pinpoint where exactly the disaster will hit.
Yes, the tropical system is more delicate to understand than the temperate one. So we will be able to say, okay, maybe Kogi, Kwara will be affected, but it's a bit difficult to do what you call the real-time forecasting, which will be able to pinpoint exactly which spots will be affected. But at the same time, there are means by which you can alert the people. And some countries are doing it. It doesn't have to be too sophisticated. In some communities, in some other countries, we have what we call community alarm makers, that they will sound the bell to the community at a time when they think the water is about half a kilometer away and on the rest, so that people can prepare themselves. So, but we need to improve now to be able to do what we call this real-time forecasting, but it's a very difficult thing for the tropical environment, of course.
So how do we prepare for this disaster? I mean, so that we don't have the same scenario as what's going on in Benue State, where several communities are underwater?
I think this is the critical issue. It is very ironic that we're in a country where it does not rain for about 4 or 5 months in a year in some of these areas. And then when it rains, because of the nature of the rain, which has been exacerbated by the climatic change conditions, it results in a lot of massive flood. So what this one requires is that I think the government of Nigeria and the state governments have to work together and develop the total area of this riverine environment, right from Kebbi, all the way to Nigeria, and develop what you call an integrated master plan for the management of the river, both for the Niger and for the Benue. And I think these examples are very clear. We have typical examples in America with Tennessee Valley Authority. So all the river basin authorities have to work together and realize that they are managing one system, which does not know when it leaves Kebbi for Niger, for Kwara and Kogi. So we have to do, number one, do the vulnerability mapping of the floodplain along this side. So we know who are there, what is likely to happen, and then how do you manage it so that when it floods, it does not really affect all the people every time. Rather, we should be using the water to produce agriculture, to produce food, to do irrigation, rather than allowing it to flood our people away. If you look at the Benue Valley, for instance, that area which was flooded this year, even during the dry season, you can see that this is a floodplain. Yes. Why are people settled there? Why should government allow people to settle in those areas? What can we do now that they have settled? I think these are all things we have to do holistically for a long-term plan, which must not be based on reaction, but rather on a long-term plan that will help us to manage this abnormal conditions very well.
Preparation, of course, is key at all times. Thank you so much, Professor Emmanuel
Welcome.
for speaking with us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much.
We can bring you updates now on the Army-IPOB Clash. The Director of Army Public Relations has reacted to a video that's been circulated on social media showing some Army personnel assaulting some civilians. Brigadier General Sani Usman says the Army is aware of this video and it has been investigated and the result of which will be made public. However, Channels Television cannot verify the source of the video, so we cannot even show it as it could be offensive to some of our viewers.
We are aware of such exploitative video being circulated, and the General also commanding 82 Division, Major General Adama Abubakar is investigating it. And whatever it is, we'll definitely let the public know about the outcome.
Meanwhile, the persistent calls for restructuring and secession has prompted the Northern Governors Forum to convene a meeting in Kaduna to address the issues. A meeting which had in attendance governors of Kaduna, Sokoto and Nasarawa, as well as traditional rulers, resolved to organize a public hearing on restructuring while calling on Nigerians to show restraint over the calls for secession by the group Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB. Our correspondent, Oreoluwa Shonibare, tells us more.
In the beginning, the journey towards a prosperous and unified Nigeria was filled with optimism.
We have arrived at one of the greatest moments of the history of our nation.
But along the way, several issues derailed the plan. Most notably, the Civil War, which many believe the country is yet to recover from. That was 47 years ago. Fast track to the present day. This is perhaps the most controversial man in Nigeria at the moment. The self-acclaimed leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, calling for a breakaway from the country. This agitation has resulted in skirmishes in some states. It appears that issues that led to the near disintegration of the country are yet to be addressed. But now, the Northern Governors Forum seems to be taking the bull by the horn at this meeting in Kaduna State. The objective, as stated by the Emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi II, is to place Nigeria on the path of peace.
What exactly is the nature of devolution of powers to states? What exactly should be the nature of local governments, and should there be an opportunity for different states to decide for themselves based on local historical conditions how to administer local governments?
For the governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwa, Nigeria has more to gain from staying together than falling apart.
We are appealing to our students, the citizens of this great country, to please exercise restraint. We have a great country in Nigeria, and we remain committed to the unity of this country. And we believe that the more united we are, the better for this country, for the black race, for Africa.
The governor's sentiment is echoed by Arawa youth at the meeting in Kano, where they expressed their concerns over the growing unrest.
The resurgence of separatist agitations, especially the violent brand by the IPOB and its ilk in the southeast, represents a major, wider conspiracy to divide Nigeria along ethnic and religious fault lines.
Nigeria, a country of diverse cultures of people working hard to live peacefully amidst the problems plaguing its unity. The only thing that can make or break the nation is what the people remember about history and how they use it to shape the future. Oreoluwa Shonibare, Channels Television News.
When the news at 10 returns, Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation inaugurates an 8-man committee to rehabilitate 3 of the country's refineries. We'll have more in business news. Please join us again.